I'm Stacey Waite. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Pittsburgh. I've been teaching and using ways of reading in my composition courses for the past 10 years. Um, Ways of Reading began in the 1980s at the University of Pittsburgh, where the premise was to give students more difficult texts to work with so that they would produce more engaging and exciting prose. When any new edition of Ways of Reading has come up, Dave Bartholomew and Tony Petrosky have offered to the graduate students, to the professors, to the whole department, a kind of collaboration where they could submit assignments or tell them how things went. And so over those 10 years, many of us in the department have been involved in new ideas for Ways of Reading. In this last edition, there were a particular group of us, graduate students, non-tenure stream faculty, and tenure stream faculty involved in picking new readings and writing new assignments for the new edition. I've used Ways of Reading several times to train the new teachers that come through the University of Pittsburgh program. And the new teachers are often really scared at first to go into the classroom with these sets of readings and these sets of assignments, thinking that students are going to think they're too difficult or struggle too hard and then be turned off from the course or have too hard of a time. And actually, I've seen those teachers be surprised again and again, and they bring in the papers and say, look what my student said about this. I hadn't even thought about this. And I think that's a wonderful aspect of the book. Cool. Ways of Reading offers students projects to work on over an extended period of time. And by doing this, they actually get a real sense of what it's like to be a scholar, to be interested in something over and over again, to go back to it, to revise one's thinkings about it. So there are other textbooks out there that you'll do a week on gay marriage and then a week on this issue or that issue, and they'll look into these issues one by one. And Ways of Reading doesn't take that approach. If we were looking into some sort of issue, whether it be an issue of writing, an issue of politics, we would look into it over and over again to see what we see. There are some great new short pieces for the first time in Ways of Reading. For example, we have an excerpt from Anne Carson's Short Talks, which is a series of, it could be called poems or lyrical essays or short flash fiction, which offer a lot of opportunities for students to write about genre and genre crossing. Really exciting pieces from Anne Carson, and then also a piece by Alberto Rios on translation, which gets students thinking about language and the lyric essay, and really lets students sort of be sustained in an engagement when they're just looking at one page or 2 pages, rather than trying to think about a 30-page essay at the same time, and they'll be able to kind of feel the difference in those kinds of inquiry. I'm also really excited about a piece in Ways of Reading called The Dark Night of the Soul by Richard Miller, which I'm really excited about teaching. I taught it actually before we put it in the new edition of Ways of Reading to kind of see how it went. And it's a piece that actually talks about writing and freshman composition a little bit. So the students actually get to see themselves talked about and engage in a conversation about what it means for them to write, what it means for them to be taught writing. And I think that's a really exciting opportunity for students to actually be engaged in the scholarship of composition itself. To me, the benefit in using Ways of Reading in terms of student responses is that I think this is pedagogically true in any circumstance, that if you approach a student as a peer, as someone with a complex web of understandings, as an intellectual, they'll respond as an intellectual. And I think Ways of Reading really just expects from the outgo that they'll do that. Just lets them dive into hard and difficult and intellectual thinking without trying to water it down or reduce it, just gives it to them as is, and they respond in kind.